and it's really just been like a lost decade for emerging markets. It's like almost no total return for the EM index over the last 10 years. Whereas in the US, S&P 500 up 300%, 350 to
Why do you think
350%.
that is, Rob? I mean, does it have anything to do with, we've talked about this sort of nominal growth, and we're actually in a weird way, we just happen to be the world's reserve currency and the hegemonic power in the world, so everybody still invests here. But things are kind of messy, right? So we're very inflationary. We've been able to reap the benefits of that in
Yep.
that, look, if you're invested in the stock market and it's going up because the Fed keeps printing money, then that's a good thing for you invested in the stock market. It's a big reason, by the way. I'll just call out to 76research.com. If you're watching, I hope that you have subscribed. We have model portfolios there, 10 to 15 stocks in each one of them, just a tremendous amount of diligence that goes into picking each one of those. Rob has a storied history, more than 2 decades on Wall Street, fabulous stock picker, tremendous record. So I'm honored to be partnered with him in this endeavor. But I would just say that it's important for people, even when, I know it's tough and you're like, wait a second, my groceries went up 30%. Like, how can I afford money to be putting into the markets? But I think it's so critical right now because that's where that opportunity is being created. And, if wages aren't growing, and they're not growing enough with inflation, it's still over the trajectory of time, pretty reliable to think that the market will continue growing. I mean, not in Mexico necessarily or other EMs, but still here in the good old USA. Explain to me why we're growing and no one else is.
Yeah, I mean, and it's a bit of a misperception. There's been one of the reasons people kind of try to talk you into investing in EM equities is the higher growth rate, even real growth rate of these economies because they're coming off such a lower base. But the fact that an underlying economy could be growing rapidly doesn't necessarily translate into value creation for shareholders and for investors. And there are phases when EM does quite well. Often that could be kind of aligned, or like historically it's aligned with like a commodity boom back when a lot of these EM plays were very commodity reliant. Nowadays, it's a more of a complicated picture. The biggest EM constituents now are China, which did well. Chinese equities actually did quite well in 2021. You recall when Tencent and Alibaba were flying, they've all crashed.
Yeah.
The Chinese stock market's a disaster. So the Chinese stock market has been dead money for 10 years. Latin American equities have been basically dead money. India lately has done well. Really, the two superstars are, Korea. South Korea is still considered an EM country for purposes of like classification, and Taiwan. And so Taiwan Semi's done quite well over the last 10 years, compounded at 10%. Samsung Electronics has done well. They've kind of like lifted the whole index. They're kind of like the NVIDIA, in Apple and Microsoft of the EM index. But, absent those two, you'd have even, I think, potentially negative returns.
Yeah. No,
So
and they're facing challenges. I mean, even looking at the ECB today, which announced that it's cutting rates, and you can see the dollar vis-a-vis the euro continually getting stronger. I was just over in Ireland twice, actually, like in the span of 6 weeks. And I'm going back again. And I'll tell you, I have not seen my dollar this strong overseas in Europe since my husband and I got married like a zillion years ago, right? That was 2001. I mean, this is a long time ago. And, everything was like a 15% discount then. We don't quite have that. But like the fact that I am not looking at a 15% hike, right, in all the euro prices. So, yeah, I mean, the U.S. comparatively is doing well. It doesn't necessarily mean we're doing great. But you look around the world and everybody's getting hit really badly.
yeah, and interest rates are high in the U.S. and real rates are high, so that's kind of driving. There's a carry trade, and that's driving capital to the dollar, for now, right? Um,
Right.
and I think that's a big part of the explanation. But yeah, where we go. I mean, at some
I just
point,
want to open up. By the way, we have a bunch of viewers watching right now. So hey, thank you guys. Thanks for being here. And I'm actually, if you see me looking down, it's because I'm reading the chats and corresponding with some of the people in real time. And I just wanted to throw this out there. We've got a lot of commentary, but if you have any thoughts or questions that you want to ask us, please feel free to jump into the conversation and do that. One of the concerns, just going back to Mexico for a second, Moon at Noon saying, the cartels have so much power in Mexico. I imagine that's going to be really tricky for her to negotiate and for her to navigate. Very unfortunately, you've seen a lot of violence in Mexico, including violence directed at politicians. It's horrible to see. And so she's going to have to confront this, I guess, in some way, shape, or form. You do need law and order in a society in order to have that society function. So in addition to her being so far left, she's also got the challenges of trying to bring a country effectively out of control when cartels have been enabled to flourish so much.